social media friends. My name is Vanessa Pineda and I'm coming to you live aboard the USS Midway Museum in lovely San Diego, California. It's all things Memorial Day weekend aboard this flight deck, and today we've got a special program called Meet the Aviators. Today you'll get to meet aviators that actually flew planes that are on the flight deck. Right behind me is the FA-18, the aircraft that was featured in the most recent Top Gun Maverick. Now, if you didn't know this, the USS Midway Museum was home to the red carpet global premiere where all of the stars walked the flight deck. However, today the flight deck is full of real heroes and pilots that actually flew the planes, including the FA-18. So come along, we're going to meet some of the pilots that flew the planes off of the carrier and tell us their amazing stories here aboard the USS Midway Museum in San Diego, California. We'll talk to you soon. So we're here with Dave Koontz. He's a former Sea King helicopter pilot, and today he's going to tell us what it was like to fly the Sea King off an aircraft carrier. Dave?
So this helicopter behind me is the SH-3 Sea King, and for 45 years, from 1961 to 2006, it was the workhorse helicopter for the Navy. It performed multiple missions. It did anti-submarine and anti-ship warfare. It did combat search and rescue. It also did utility. It also did passenger transportation. It did everything that the Navy needed it to do in the fleet, and it was one of the most reliable helicopters that the Navy's ever had. And I was very fortunate to have several hundred hours of flight time in this helicopter, and I always felt very safe, and I knew it would always bring me home. My favorite place on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier is spot number 3, right up there on the angle, which was a spot that I probably landed on most of my time flying helicopters in the Navy. I always felt very good and comfortable landing on spot 3 because there was usually no other aircraft around and I had plenty of room to land. And when you're landing on an aircraft carrier, even though it looks really small when you're flying to it out in the middle of the ocean, once you get over the flight deck, you might as well be landing on a farmer's field in Iowa. So spot 3 on an aircraft carrier is my favorite spot.
Hi, we're here aboard the USS Midway Museum, continuing on with our Meet the Aviators program. Right behind me is an E-2 Hawkeye, and we're going to talk to Pence about this amazing aircraft.
Hi, my name's Pence Parsons. I was on the Midway in 1977, 78, and 79. Our daughter was born in Japan in 1978, so I have fond memories of the Midway as well as Japan. Let's talk about my favorite airplane, the E-2C Hawkeye. It is the longest carrier-based plane in history, and they're still making them today. It's a radar plane, airborne early warning. The crew of 5, 2 pilots and 3 naval flight officers. I was a naval flight officer. I flew in the back end where the good stuff happens, okay? And several years ago, all female crew flying off the USS Carl Vinson, home ported here in San Diego. I'll talk to you about the mission. Flying at 25,000 feet, 200 miles from the carrier. Midway's radar goes out to 200 miles. So we're expanding the radar picture of the battle group. The dome spins. We get to see bad guy airplanes, ships, and missiles from the surface of the deck to 100,000 feet, 600 miles in diameter. If you drive from San Diego to San Francisco, that's 500 miles, just to give you a perspective. Once we have that radar blip, the blip would change to a symbol. The symbol is Wi-Fi from the Hawkeye to the carrier and all the ships in the battle group. So what we see at 500 miles, they see instantaneously. We have 5 E-2Ds that are assigned to the 11 nuclear carriers in the fleet today. So my favorite memory about flying this airplane, we got to see some Soviet MiGs flying out of Vladivostok, north of Japan. We tracked them, and we weren't at war at the time, but that was my favorite deal for that. And also, my call sign is the short, fat sweat hog. Squadron mates have to make your own call sign. So I was a short, fat sweat hog, and I'm still fat.
One of the unique features of the Meet the Aviators program today is that you actually get to climb aboard aircraft that are normally not on exhibit. So if you have some time, this is the most coolest opportunity to come inside and check things out for yourself. We're going to follow Pence, and he's going to tell us about the E-2 Hawkeye that he flew. Now come and join us.
Very good. So the crew of 5, 2 pilots in the front, and 3 naval flight officers in the back. We have 3 scopes. You're sitting in the RO seat, the junior person in the back. Once you've qualified for this position, you would come to my seat called the ACO, Air Interceptor Control Officer. When the good guy fighters check in with the E2, they would be vectored to the bad guy fighters by the symbols. And you're sitting in the SECO seat. You're in charge of how to employ the radar. And if you want to see the pictures, you can go each scope. And so when I check in for the new squadron, I would be the radar operator first, ACO second, Air Intercept Control Officer, and then the SECO doing that stuff. Because every ship has a different air wing and all that kind of stuff. And so when we launch, the seats are 4.5, okay? And then when we went to 1,000 feet, the dome would spin, and then these seats would hear and see all the scope, all that kind of stuff.
Hey everybody, we're here with Gary, and he's going to tell us about the UH-1B gunship that's right behind us. This really cool helicopter is something that you can see today aboard the USS Midway. Hey Gary, let's talk about it.
This helicopter was with the HAL 3 Sea Wolves in Vietnam. I got aboard the squadron in January of 1970. I left country in August of 1971. My duties, other than maintenance of the helicopter at that point in time, was a backseater, a door gunner. I'm not sure how many missions I flew. It was probably 700-800. But that's my memories of what goes on with this helicopter. I can't talk to you about the pilot. Obviously, the pilots we had came out of the training command and went right through the helicopter training before they came to Vietnam. Myself, as an enlisted, I was a door gunner, and we went through training with the Army before we got into country. We trained as Army personnel because this is basically an Army helicopter. So all their training was done in Fort Rucker, Alabama, and a couple other places. When I got in country, I went to a detachment. I personally went to Detachment 9. It was located 3,000 yards below the Cambodian border on the Mekong River on a barge-type ship that was called YRBM 21. We were there for a period of time, and the gunners that were there at that point that were experienced, they gave us the training and the skills that we needed to fly in the gunship after that. It took about 30 days for most detachments to do that. So that's how I got trained and what we did.
Hi, we're here with Walt Davis, and he's going to tell us about the F-4 Phantom, one of the coolest planes we've got on the USS Midway. Walt?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Walt Davis, and Vanessa, just before she asked me to do this, also asked me, what is one unique thing about me? So since we're here on a flight deck with airplanes today, I will tell you one unique thing, that I was a Navy Gray Eagle. And the Gray Eagle is a person who's been in Navy on active duty longer than anyone else. And so for about 2 years, I was the Gray Eagle. So that shows you how much I love airplanes, how much I love flying. To the right of me here, you see the first airplane that I flew. It's the F-4 Phantom. My wife and I came to San Diego in December 1960, and I was lucky enough to get in the F-4 squadron and flew that airplane operationally up until the 70s. And then in the 70s time frame, we switched over to the F-14, and it's next door over there, the F-14. Both of them great airplanes. This airplane built as an interceptor that we transformed into a maneuverable fighter jet, and the other designed as both a interceptor and a maneuverable flying, and a very maneuverable airplane by being able to swing its wings. So it's been fun talking with you a few moments today, and hopefully, Vanessa, you got all you needed.
We're here with Elvis, and he's going to talk to us about the Viking that's right behind us. This is a really big plane, and I can't wait to hear about what he's got to say about it.
Okay, thanks Vanessa for the introduction. My name is Commander Kevin Elmore. I'm a retired United States Navy pilot. This is the S-3B Viking behind me. Its primary mission in the Navy was anti-submarine and tanking. So this plane would go up and look for subsurface and surface ships and submarines in the sea. And it also was a tanker, so if a fighter aircraft or an attack aircraft needed fuel, they come to the S-3 for that fuel. Flew this aircraft and the electronic version, the ES-3 in the Navy. They actually were not on this ship when I was stationed here from 1989 to 91, but nonetheless it was a very versatile and active aircraft in the Navy fleet. Okay, Vanessa, my favorite memory flying this aircraft was one of the missions was called a night recovery tanker, or the Hawk. And sometimes when the fighter aircraft were having a problem getting on board the ship, the Hawk, or the recovery tanker, had to circle overhead and help the particular fighter aircraft to get on board the ship. And when they ran low on fuel, we would come down to about 1,200 feet and put the basket out so they could receive fuel and fuel them up so they could land safely on the ship. And so my favorite memory is doing the recovery tanking and helping my fellow aviators get on the ship when they were having trouble at night.
So as you see, there are plenty of aviators for you to meet today. So why don't you come on down to the USS Midway Museum, check us out, midway.org, buy your tickets, and we'll see you soon. Take care.